Okay, good morning and welcome everybody to the first Swansea Bay City Region Joint Committee meeting of 2021. Happy New Year to everybody. If we go straight into the agenda then, and first we have apologies for absence. So I go to Mr. Evans. Any apologies?
No apologies.
Okay. Are there any others that anybody wishes to offer at the meeting today? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move then on to the declarations of interest. Are there any to declare? I can't see anybody indicating. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move then to the minutes of the Joint Committee from the 7th of December 2020. I haven't been advised of any changes or errors in the minutes, but happy to take any if anybody wishes to raise them now. If not, can I ask somebody to move those minutes as a true record, please? Thank you, Councillor Dole. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Simpson. All in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Those are carried. Announcements of chair. I don't have any announcements this morning. We'll move then to public questions. Mr. Evans, do we have any public questions submitted?
None submitted, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll move then to our first substantive item, which is the Swansea Bay City Deal Funding Award Letter, and I'll go over to Mr. Chris Moore. Chris.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. The report itself actually presents the recent award letter offer that we've had from Welsh Government in respect of the City Deal money and details the current terms and conditions. Within the award letter, you will notice that it actually puts forward the offer of 2 further instalments on the 241 million grant allocation that we got for Swansea Bay City Region deal, and those two instalments are 18 million each. One in respect of the years 2019-20 and one in respect of years 2020-21. Welsh Government want to move out the first instalment as soon as possible, and the terms and conditions are before us today for approval. What you will notice is that the report itself doesn't actually request approval, but after talking to the monitoring officer, we believe that the actual original joint agreement does require joint committee to approve these terms and conditions today, and that's due to the fact that there have been a number of changes to the schedules which are attached to the actual terms and conditions. The schedules, and I'm looking at page 18 of the committee papers, Schedule 1, they have been widened in respect that the previous terms and conditions were linked specifically to the 2 first projects that were actually approved under the Swansea Bay City Region. But now the award letter, and you'll notice in paragraph 1 that the award of funding is to be used only for the purposes of delivering the programme. So rather than actually specifically the 2 schemes, it's now opened up to the programme. So ostensibly, the terms and conditions have widened on what they were originally and are less onerous to the joint committee in the fact that they are now covering off the portfolio of the 9 business cases, as opposed to specifically the previous ones that we received were for Swansea Waterfront and Regin. So that is one of the main changes. The other change is that within Schedule 2, we have now got the details around the accounting officer's review, which is the targets around the delivery of those. And the majority of the targets are actually either delivered or on target to be delivered, but those have been incorporated within the terms and conditions, and therefore for those 2 purposes it was felt necessary that we needed a formal approval. The monitoring officer will come in at the end of my presentation to give you the amended wording in terms of the recommendation, so that we actually ensure that we cover off any governance matter. And I need to draw it to the attention of the joint committee that as per the reserve matters, we do need to get these terms and conditions also approved by the individual constituent authorities. Now, the way that was done last time, and I suspect the way that will be done this time, is that individual authorities have got delegated authority down to their Section 151 officers to approve that generally, but it is a governance issue for the individual authorities, and I have already written to the Section 151s to confirm their approval process so that we can actually get this returned to Welsh Government and secure the further two £18 million instalments. Hopefully going forward, the terms and conditions won't change by any significance. As you remember, the first ones were very defined because we were in the initial stages of the regional Swansea Bay regional development, whereas hopefully in future, once we got the targets around the accounting officer's review out of the way, it should be more of a rolling programme. Certainly, the position is that we've agreed the original 241 million, and this is actually firming up on the individual instalments for those 2 years. You will notice that I referred to the 2 years, 1920 and 2021. So we're actually trying to come up to the right years for the instalments by the end of March, because we have been falling a bit behind in terms of the way that the money is allocated from Welsh Government. Again, the payments are targeted at the moment at 18 million, which is more slightly weighted in favour of the early years of the funding, on the basis that this is a 15-year programme and a 15-year funding programme from Welsh Government. So hopefully that explains where we are and puts the clarification in place. Perhaps, Chair, Tracy, Monitoring Officer, can come in and clarify the exact wording that would be appropriate to finalise this report today, if members are willing to approve it.
Thank you, Chris. I'll go to Tracy next. Tracy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, with a view to complying with the Joint Committee Agreement, and in particular the terms of reference to the Joint Committee, and indeed in complying with the legal imps that are already set out in the report, the amended recommendation will read: it is recommended that the Joint Committee approves the UK and Welsh Government funding award letter and associated terms and conditions attached at Appendix A, subject to approval by all 4 constituent authorities. So it will require a vote of the Joint Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Chris. Just before we do, I mean, obviously, very much welcome the award letter and the clear indication that Chris has given that further releases of 18 million are scheduled and should be with us in due course. That is a very good place for us to be in, and you know, represents, I think, the hard work that's been done by officers in the central office to make sure we get through our reviews and our governance changes, and all of the officers and politicians across the various authorities who've been working hard to make sure that the project business cases are submitted, that the questions and clarifications are answered, and that we're in a very good position. I still maintain that you could look at any other city deal or growth deal across Wales and nobody will have the pipeline of projects being approved, submitted or delivered that we have here in our region. And I think that's a very strong position, especially as we emerge from the COVID pandemic, and recovery, economic recovery and economic stimulus is going to become an even more important part of the function of the Joint Committee. So very, very happy with that. I will take comments or questions if anybody has them on this, but the monitoring officer has laid out the revised recommendation. If I don't have any other hands, and I don't see any, then I'll go to Mr. Evans for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. For the 4 council leaders that are voting, please note you are voting on the amended recommendation as outlined by the monitoring officer. So please indicate if you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Emlyn Dole.
Obliged, for.
Councillor Rob Jones.
For.
Councillor David Simpson.
For.
Councillor Rob Stewart.
For.
That's a unanimous vote, Chair.
Thank you all very much. And we will proceed now then to item 7, which is the accounting officer's review of the action plan update, and this is to update us on progress since we last saw this back in November. So I'll go to Jonathan Burns now from Central Office. Jonathan.
Thanks, Chair. This is just a verbal update, and it's on the back of what Chris just outlined with the funding award letter. So the Accounting Officer review report that came to Joint Committee on November the 12th. This is just a progress update. So in your paperwork, you should have clear updates on each of the recommendations. The original set were 15 recommendations. We have closed off 2 of those, and all the rest we're making good progress. Everything that we're doing in terms of the updates and the recommendations, they will all be incorporated into the latest version of the portfolio business case, and that will be completed by the end of March. But just to make sure that there's kind of a flavour as to what we've been doing. So there are key actions which have been undertaken, things around strategic policy alignment and how it's been mapped now across all projects and programmes for the portfolio. We've firmed up spending objectives, and we've now baselined those. We've got procurement principles which are incorporating community benefits, and that process is underway. Risk management strategy has been developed and agreed. We have a change control process that will go through our governance in coming weeks, so that's developing nicely. Monitoring, evaluation, performance, templates and reports, things like quarterly monitoring, highlight reports, all of those you have started to receive. And again, it's basically the report updates on these AOR recommendations that you will continue to receive. So everything is progressing as we planned. In fact, we're probably ahead of track to get those done and making sure that we continue with our drawdown of funds. So Chair, that's pretty much the update.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. And again, thank you for the work that you and your team and others have been doing to make sure that those recommendations are cleared off as quickly as possible, and it's good to see progress continuing across all of those. Are there any questions or comments for Jonathan on the update? Again, we did look at this in November, so it is really just a refresh of the position. I don't see any, so that is for noting. If we move then to our last item for today, which is the update in terms of our portfolio and projects. So I'll go back to Jonathan from this, and I'm sure he'll wish to call in other contributions as we go. So John.
Thanks, Chair. So the updates are just a few points on each of the 9 projects or programmes that we have. So by exception, if anybody would like to add anything, then please do. So the first one is digital infrastructure. So we submitted the business case for approval on the 18th of December. That's gone for ministerial approval with all the support and documentation, and we're awaiting feedback. What we are going to receive next week is informal feedback on what has been submitted to speed up the process then of getting it into delivery. So that's a really good offer from Welsh UK Government. And what the project lead is doing, Gareth Jones, he's looking at recruiting resource for the programme so that we can get that up and running as quickly as possible. So that will happen in coming weeks to supplement Gareth as the only project team member at the moment. So that's digital infrastructure. Skills and talent. The business case is being developed. There's been a series of meetings held now with all the project leads to determine the project skills needs to inform the business case. There will be a meeting held with a consultant called Joe Flanagan. He's the author of the Green Book to discuss the options that we have around the economic appraisal. So that will take place in next week or so. The team has undergone some structural changes that will be reflected in the management case of the business case. And we have, as a PMO, we've reviewed the strategic case and fed back to Jane and the team to incorporate that within the section. So what the hope is to get everything completed within the next month or two and to progress to regional approval. And that will go through all of our governance structures, including Economic Strategy Board, Portfolio Board and Joint Committee and local authority, cabinets, etc. So that's skills and talent. Homes as power stations. So there's been changes to the business case following the external reviews. They will be presented to Portfolio Board on the 26th of January. There will be a lessons learned workshop held later in January to look at what and how we've done things to make sure that we learn from that. Meetings have been held with various people, including a private sector developer, They're looking to build houses using the HAPS model and to share the HAPS Knowledge Hub, one of the outputs from that. And again, similar to digital, looking at commencement of recruitment for a project manager to support that. That will commence in early February this year. Homes as power stations also will, that once we receive the final business case, that will be submitted to Welsh and UK government, hopefully next week. That's the plan. Swansea City Waterfront and Digital District, the arena construction is progressing well. In relation to the 71-72 Kingsway development, bidders have been asked for an extension to submit construction tender responses. So that's going to close in the next couple of weeks. And they're still looking to report by March on that. Ongoing discussions are around letting for the 71-72 Kingsway. There's been positive interest from businesses, and there's a cabinet decision also expected for March to take the scheme forward. And the last point is around the, sorry, Rob?
Yeah, sorry, Jonathan, I was just going to add to that one, just for awareness. Obviously, as you've said, phase one of what's now called Copper Bay, which is the digital arena, is progressing well, as you've said, despite obviously all of the challenges of COVID. We have obviously also launched outside of the city deal a Shaping Swansea programme where we're looking for a strategic partner. They will assist us on phase two of Copper Bay. Now, I think it's important for people to note, because one of the things that we always get challenged on as a city region is, well, what do your projects do? Are they the entirety of the impact they make? And I think one of the things that we are seeing in Swansea, and I know others will be seeing elsewhere with their projects, is due to the investment we've made in phase one through the city deal, through the delivery now of phase two, there is a significant additional impact. So just to put that into numbers, the economic uplift from phase one is estimated at around £17 million a year to the economy because of what we're doing as part of the city deal. Phase two, which is currently outside the city deal but is being delivered anyway, and we expect a very positive announcement with our government partners in due course, is likely to uplift the economy by a further 100 million or so. So this is the point of the interventions that we're making in the city deal. They are catalysts for further growth and further investment. I think it's important that we don't lose sight of that. I think we need to find a way to make sure that we capture those as we go, because phase two is going to be significantly bigger than phase one. And that is only possible because of the investment of the city deal. And, this is where our city deal continues to grow and grow and grow in terms of its impacts. And I think that's a really positive story that we need to tell.
Thanks, Jen. It's a very good example. And as far as the PMO is concerned, we will look at the kind of impact and the benefits associated with the wider things as part of that process. So I think that's excellent. The last bullet point on the Swansea Waterfront Digital District is what was the Box Village is now called the Innovation Matrix in terms of branding. The planning application is being led and progressed by Trinity St David, and that's due for submission in February. So that's Swansea City Waterfront Digital District. Pentre Owl, the business case was submitted for ministerial approval on the 13th of November. We're awaiting approval again from Welsh UK Government, but again, similar to digital, we've been offered some initial feedback so we can start progressing into delivery ahead of formal approval. So again, positive signs, and that will take place next week. Pembroke Dock Marine, so discussions are ongoing between the Port Authority and Pembrokeshire Council regarding the funding agreement and changes to project activity due to project delivery delays. We're hopeful that the agreement and the signing of the changes, if you like, in coming days, and the intention is for Pembrokeshire Council to approve the outputs, outcomes and impacts, and they will be done locally down in Pembroke because there's no detrimental impact to the wider portfolio benefits with the changes that they're proposing. So that's all governed and shared with all relevant stakeholders. Support innovation, low carbon growth. The business case was informally submitted to the PMO just before Christmas. We've provided feedback. Formal submission, we're hoping that for the 1st of February. and there's been a lot of work around the economic appraisal and the economic case and making sure that it's aligned to the Green Book. So that has now happened. And we're hoping to come back to ESB in February to provide a progress update to make sure that we've closed the loop with the Economic Strategy Board members on what that project is about. The last two, life sciences wellbeing campuses. The outline business case in an initial draft was submitted to the PMO just before Christmas. We are now providing feedback to Keith Lloyd, who's the SRO, on Friday. There's also Grant Thornton have been appointed as consultants to review the business case and look at a kind of business engagement strategy with them. Video content has been produced shown to help with engagement and communications to demonstrate what the project is about. And we've had various meetings again with UK Welsh Government to raise awareness. And again, we hope to get an update to ESB prior to submission so that ESB have the opportunity to better understand the project and what it entails, etc. And then we'll progress with regional submission and approval and up to Welsh UK Government for ministerial approval, probably by May, June time. The last one, Eregin. The funding agreements for phase one, the completion of those is imminent. We've had some good feedback on that. There's a creative sector analysis being undertaken, hopefully starting next week, and that is there to inform phase two. So what the project team and Trinity St David are looking at is the suitability of phase two and the delivery solution, and whether the solution provides the maximum benefit, and making sure that any changes that happen come through our governance arrangements. But the intent is that it will not change the outcomes and benefits associated with the project, but how and what we do to deliver it in phase two potentially could follow in this analysis with the creative sector. And Chair, that is the 9 projects and programs. There's lots of stuff going on. So again, the thanks that you keep on passing. This goes to the teams as well, Rob, because there's a lot of work in the background that people don't see.
No, absolutely, Jonathan, and thank you for that. I know that our teams across the region and every authority and all of our partners are working hard to make sure we continue to make progress. I know you've rattled through there. Is there anybody from any of the organisations or any of the councils or partners who wish to comment on any of their projects? We'll open it up if anybody wishes to add to what Jonathan said. But you know, the news remains extremely positive on all of this. I don't see anything, so I'll take from that everybody's happy and contented. Okay, good stuff. All right, so we'll note that, and that concludes our meeting for today. So can I again thank you all for your attendance. Finish by wishing you again a happy new year and look forward to seeing you next month. Take care now.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.